And we can start with the first question. So, whose first language in the team isn't English? And what is it?
So my first language is Arabic, my second language is French, and my third language is English.
Sarah?
My first language is Persian or Farsi.
Luan?
Sorry, yeah. My first language is Arabic. I also speak English and French.
Nice. So, I guess this is a question for the team. What was it like communicating in English for the first time? Or even if your first language is English, what were some challenges you experienced?
I feel like I'm always talking first, but go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So I guess so I speak Japanese and English. And I kind of grew up in a household that like both languages were like spoken very frequently. So like it's kind of hard for me to figure out which one's my first and which one's my second. But I did kind of grow up in Japan for most of my life. So even though like I would think like certain words were just like they would just sound the way I thought they would, but when I came here, I realized that like certain words I was saying it like kind of are very wrong. An example was like I was talking to a friend in residence, and like the word maintenance came up, but for so long I thought maintenance was pronounced maintenance because that's kind of how it's pronounced in Japanese. So they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, I did something wrong," and I just felt kind of awkward. So yeah, it was kind of like a few more words like that, but it kind of had a little getting used to, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much like for me personally, I took some, I mentioned also in the session, like, a week back. Uh, it wasn't much of a, like, not being able to uh, speak English, like, properly because I like took a few courses in English back in my home country, Iran. But it was like, the problem of communicating at first. Like, I could, convey my message, like, at a basic level, basically, like, going to groceries or, uh, just meeting my first, like, needs, basically. But, when talking to people and, forming a connection and, the so-called communicating with people was like the thing that, needed a little bit uh, training at first because I had to, get used to see, like, be in the basically, yeah, you have to, be in the try to, talk, and as you go, it just takes practice. Basically, yeah, it's not something that there's no etiquette book on how to communicate. It's basically like you try to improve your English just to have like good enough vocabulary to be able to speak and convey your message, and then the communication part just goes along, depends on the people you meet and the connections you form. And it is overwhelming for first year students coming here as an international students, but it gets better. It's not something that you will like always be at the back of your mind. As you go through, it just becomes ingrained in your mind, and you can be able to communicate however you're comfortable with a group of people that you're in touch with on a daily basis. And it will be like, yeah, it will be pretty swell, like after a while, once you get used to here.
Mm-hmm.
And I also find with English, when I was learning English more in depth, I found it kind of difficult to like um, understand other people's like tones of voice with context, because back in my country, for some context in some conversations, you have one specific tone of voice, or you might change to another specific tone of voice. But here, I found that those tones of voices might not correspond with the same context, because really depending on from culture to culture, the tone of voice that you use when speaking to someone really differs. Like, for example, when you like back home, when you talk to somebody who is older than you generally don't raise your voice more than a certain level, and you don't really tend to show too much excitement. You just you keep yourself very professional and quiet. But here you can actually raise your voice a little to sound like happier or portray more emotions. It's a bit more casual with, for example, like with a professor.
And I think for me, going by a first name basis was very interesting because usually if back home, if someone is older than you or someone you don't know, it's like auntie or uncle, even if you don't know their first name. But over here, people just introduce themselves like directly, and I was like, whoa! But I'm kind of like younger and like I'm not as like grown up and stuff like that. So that was a big change. Even for professors, I mean, I tend to like address them as like sir or ma'am, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they don't really like that. They would rather like either like doctor or like first name things. So that took some time to get used to.
Oh yeah, it's all like the first name basis, basically. Yeah, it's like they actually find offensive if you call him sir or ma'am. It's like, what do you think? I'm 70 or something? Yeah, just call me Jake or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
like even your professors are like, even if you're a subordinate, you like, talking to you like, people like, up ahead of you. It's just like, yeah, the first name basis is really common here as opposed to, back home. Like, if anyone was like, older or your senior or like just, in like, an upper social class, or like, at the workplace, you would refer to them as, Mr. followed by their last name. But here it's just like, very, yeah, first name basis, very chill, I guess, which is good. Yeah, it's like, forms day, it's just uh just indicates a more friendlier environment, whether it's in school or workplace.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it makes them more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Like it reduces those barriers, and
Yeah.
it's pretty good in a way. Yeah.
We can move on to the next question. What are some things you struggle with most because of language barriers? So for me, my first language is English, but back home we do have like I'm from Singapore and it's like Singaporean English. So it's kind of mixed with like different dialects of Chinese, a bit of Malay, a bit of, just we just shorten words. So if you want to ask your friends like, hey, do you want to hang out later? It's kind of just like go where, or do you want to eat. It's very different. It's definitely shorter, and so coming here I had to kind of adapt and add like filler words into my sentences and speak much slower and try like the words that come into my mind are sometimes not even English. So there was like a term we use back home. It's like, if you want to like clip something on, like, you need a clip for this bag, like a bag of chips, we say gyap. So it's kind of like the sound of like a clip what to make, but we can't
Yeah.
ask someone who's white to like do that. So it's kind of like, oh, do you have like a clip for the bag of chips? Like in my mind, it just doesn't sound right, but it's how you communicate it to other people. So it's like
Mhm.
that's just my take on it. What about you guys?
I kind of have a similar example, like back home in Japan, like there's a way of saying like when you want to like like indicate to your group of friends like you agree with them, like with what they're saying, you say sorena, and like it's so just ingrained with like it's not even like Japanese, it's just like ingrained within me that like that's what you say when you agree. Like it's almost just like a sound you make, like like that. So like even in English conversations when I was like talking to my friends from Canada, I would like accidentally say sorena and they'd be like, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, like I have to say like something similar to that in English, but it isn't like I couldn't really come up with something that had like the similar meaning, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I needed to come up with like just say like, oh yeah, I agree, but it's just it's different.
It's kind of different, yeah.
Yeah.
I've a similar experience. Sometimes I forget words in English, and then I'm just trying to go through like what is it in Arabic? Then what is it in French? Then okay, what is it in English? And I just completely blank.
Mm, yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah, I had the same problem. Like when I first came here, like, uh, even like, anytime like it was in a conversation, like, I was trying to say something, I always have to go through my mind, yeah, what would I say in Farsi, and then translate it to English, and then, regurgitate all the words, to the person that I'm talking to, basically, which is like, it was like the first step, basically. You're just trying to, basically like, Google Translate, like in your brain kind of way, just,
Yeah.
get through, just, convey your message, just, make sure they understand what you're saying. But yeah, it was like one of the struggles, basically. And yeah, as Stephanie said, on the way to, translating it back from your mother tongue, there's a lot of words and a lot of phrases that you forget. And then you try to, yeah, go back and say, okay, how am I gonna, say like, this specific thing? But yeah, it's like as you go through, basically, yeah, as I said, through communicating and, as you go, become more, involved in the societies and, in your classes with your classmates and, just, talk more, it just, becomes ingrained, you don't have to really think about it like, that much anymore. It's just like, yeah, you want to say something, you immediately say it. You don't have to, say, okay, yeah, this is this phrase in Persian, they have to, yeah, translate it back. No, it just becomes, more organically.
Same
And
thing for
also-
me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Stephanie.
No, I just have a quick thing. So there's also in some languages there's words that don't really exist in English. So what Lauren was saying about how you kind of have to put more words into what you have to say, definitely, because sometimes I try, like, even if I'm trying to find a word in English that I have to like translate it back, sometimes I realize that that word that I'm thinking of does not exist in English, and I have to find like an alternative way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I find myself going through like a series of mental gymnastics to come up with a sentence that actually makes sense. And I think that's why I struggle with interviews a lot, because I spend some time thinking in my head, like, oh, does this sound right? Or like, am I thinking in a different language? Like, what's happening? But I think that's one of the barriers that comes with learning different languages. Yeah.
I feel like we all have this like innate Google Translate thing, which is
Yeah.
interesting for people who are like bilingual. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like I struggle with sometimes like the word that's not English has more emotion than the English word itself. So like trying to express it's just my message doesn't come across all the time, but it's yeah.
Especially for like feelings, like some words are so strong in one language, and in others, like they don't convey the exact message.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like when Lauren said, putting more stuff like, in English as a word, like I found like an example, like we say this thing in Persian, or like, where I'm from in Shiraz, yeah, it says umadiya, which the direct translation is go do this thing and come back as soon as possible. But it's like only like, one word, like, one word, and it's like, conveys that whole message. And it's like, yeah, it's like basically, yeah, there's a lot of, I'm pretty sure there's also reverse things too. Like, there are words in English that are just like one or two phrases, but like, if you want to say it in your own language, you have to like, form a paragraph, But yeah, these are like, just have to be, you become more aware of it as you go.
Yeah. I think we can go into the interesting topic of small talk. So I think in different cultures, not everyone is as open as maybe North America. And small talk is not really something that's being like talked about or even like broached, because back home we don't really ask people like how are you doing or how's your day or like look at the weather or any plans. I've asked like the postman like how's your day, and like someone was like, oh, I'm feeling ill this week, and I'm like, I don't need to know, but oh, get well soon. It's interesting. And even just
how you doing, you just have to say, if you're good, you say good. If you're not good, you say fine. Yeah, don't actually say how you're feeling. Yeah,
basically.
Don't waste my time.
Yeah. So what do you have any experiences with small talk or like any advice?
For me, I found that small talk was very awkward in the beginning, because in my culture, we're not used to talking to strangers. So it's either you know someone and you talk to them, or you don't know them and you just walk by. But here I was waiting for the bus and somebody just comes up and they're like, yeah, the bus is late, how's the weather, things like that. I'm like, okay, like what do you want? But yeah, it was a little awkward at first, but I think I'm doing better now.
I think, yeah, I had like similar experiences when I was like getting my food, for example, at like Subway or like getting coffee or something. Like it was kind of new to me that the person at the counter would like make small talk with you sometimes, which isn't the thing in Japan. They're very like formal, and they're registered. They're like, thank you, goodbye. Like that's it. So like it was kind of, I needed to get used to like being like, oh, hi, how's it going? Like I needed to kind of act friendly because I was scared that like I would seem rude if I didn't. But yeah, I kind of like from this year of living in Canada, I think I've gradually gotten used to like, being able to be comfortable with small talk, I guess.
Mhm.
I think it's also interesting that people smile at each other, like even just walking by. Because I didn't do that like back home. People just kind of just walk, and so stopping, even like they're like just older folks in like the neighborhood who just like walk their dogs, and they kind of like look at you, and they'll smile, and you're like, oh, okay, hi, yeah.
Yeah, all the interactions are like, here is pretty very genuine because like as they say, like yeah, when you catch someone's gaze and you look at someone like and they look at you back, it's like it's a custom to give a smile and with just small talk, in our culture, it's like yeah, there is small talk a lot. Like it's not really a small talk. You either just walk away or just sit down and talk for like 10 to 15 minutes. But
Mhm.
here it's like even if you're with people you're acquainted with, of course, but here it's like even if you're not acquainted with someone and you're just sitting next to someone at a bus stop or something, it's like yeah, some people, I mean, depends on the people. A lot of the people, yeah, just you're like yeah, crazy weather we having, and then you'll be like yeah, and just form like a few comments. But yeah, it's like really, it might be overwhelming at points, but it's just however you're comfortable, you can respond and get past the awkwardness, I guess. If you're feeling awkward, it's like yeah, why is this stranger talking to me all of a sudden? But yeah, it's just really a custom here that you see someone, you acknowledge their existence, you smile, and if they say something, you just talk, basically commenting on stuff. Yeah, basically treat it as a Facebook wall. Yeah, you see someone says something interesting, and just leave it, yeah, like yeah. But yeah, you just make a comment or something. Basically, yeah, it's not much pressure.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting because back home in my country, we don't really have small talk. It's basically you can talk. People talk to you on the street, but you don't really say like hi, how are you, and then that's it. You kind of just keep going for like 5 minutes. So I found well, when I got here, and then people would say like hi, how are you, and then they just smile and then go about their day because people are very busy here too. Like I didn't really know when to end the conversation, and
Yeah.
I found that a bit awkward for me personally.
Like, yeah, is it just greeting or are we like, catching up? Like, actually, like, you don't really know. Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
back home, it's random strangers. You can just sit and talk to them like on the street if you're waiting, and then you talk for like 15 minutes, and then maybe your a bus arrives or your taxi arrives, and you're still talking to them like you've just become friends. It's nice.
Yeah.
But here people I find are a bit more busy, so it's easier for them to just communicate with each other just quickly and very politely, and then just go about their day.
Yeah. Again, it's like if you're like, busy and want to exit the conversation, just, drag away. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, man, it was really good. Yeah. Have a good one. Bye. Bye. See ya. Just drag away gradually, I guess. I don't know.
So for me, I lived in residence, and there were people from everywhere because most of them are like international. I mean, some of them are international students, most of them are Canadians. But going down the hallway, some people would be like, "Hey, how's your day? Like, what classes are you going to?" And then it was like a little bit of code switching for me because we don't usually talk like this back home, or you're just like trying to get back to your room, but people do like to engage in conversation. So it's a big change, but also like when did you guys realize you have to code switch? Like, I think that's a pretty interesting topic to broach. Or do you ever
From the
broach it?
first day. When I came here with my parents, and I remember the first day when I arrived at the International Center, there were some volunteers who were not international students, and the small talk began like right away, and I was just like, do I answer this seriously, or do I just casually just answer it like I'm fine and then end the conversation? But like, yeah, you get used to it, and now I find myself doing it to my other international student friends. So yeah.
Mhm.
I realized I started doing it when I started pronouncing about as a boot, or like, you know, sorry in like the supermarket, and I'm like, I would not, like, back home it would just be like, oh, I'm sorry, and like you just, oh, I don't think we apologize. I'm not so sure. It's like it's been a while, but you know, it's like
I don't remember either. Yeah.
and yeah, I realized you know, like there are a lot of jokes about Canada and they're being so nice and apologizing, and I catch myself doing it now. But then when I call my parents or like friends from back home, it's like I kind of switch back to how I talk, but not entirely, because that's just how I communicate with most people here. So it's a very interesting dynamics, and yeah. Did having like local friends help? What do you guys, what's your take on that?
Definitely having someone from here or who's been here for a long time really helps you to sort of learn what's acceptable and what's not. And you can ask them questions if they're, you know, a close friend. You can ask them awkward questions like, "Oh, is this okay?" Or like, "Is this not okay?"
Yeah.
So definitely make those friends. So,
Yeah, it's basically, yeah. Is it okay if you meet someone for a first time to kiss them on the cheek twice or three times? You know,
Oh,
yeah. It was really, a lot of like even in Iran, like sometimes because you know you both have to go to the right or to the left, and sometimes you go to the left and he goes to the right, and then you end up kissing on the lips, and that's like way more awkward. Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like one thing they just like not really accustomed, you know. It's like, you know, because we just, meet and say shake hands and kiss on the cheek, one here, one there, or maybe a third one, depends on the kind of person you are, I guess. But yeah, it was like not really accustomed here. And yeah, definitely like, having friends here, like, when you come here and form your own friend group, they really pretty much, guide you towards, or even if you're not living here for a long time, you can, experience this whole thing as a group. And, because, they're as overwhelmed as you are if they're like, international students who've been there, like, very recently, or like, any other certain situation. Even if they're not international students, a lot of these, like, even like, Canadian born and raised, students, like, come from all over to Canada, like, and then, they're just, pretty much new to this experience. I mean, not compared to an international student who leaves home, but they also leave home and they're like the whole situation, like, the environment is like new to them. So it's like, we're not really that different. So it's like, all together we can, just approach this thing and, you'll get by. It's not really
Stick
that
together.
much. So yeah, together, exactly.
Definitely,
So,
you become like way more confident in like speaking to other people and making friends. Because if you have both, if you make both friends who are locals or Canadian, like Sadra was saying, and even also friends who are from your culture too, you become way more open, way more. You feel a bit more like confident in speaking and going out and just having a great time learning and making friends, and it's really fun. And the best way to do that is join societies. I found when I first joined the Arabic Society, I didn't really know a lot of Arabic people like here. I knew there was a lot, but I didn't really know them personally because I'm kind of shy. But then when I joined the Arabic Society, I met some amazing people, and I highly encourage you guys to also join these societies, because there are a lot of societies that
Yeah.
are culturally based.
And there's a society for anything you're interested in. So whether that be, you know, cooking or a cultural society, anything. So make sure you join societies.
Yeah, dancing, philosophy, if you're into movies, if you're into, I don't know, board games, there's a society for everything pretty much. And if
Yeah,
there's
like
not,
anime
you
as
can
well.
just start a
Yeah.
society and just, you know, find people who are interested in it for your own. And, you know, yeah, it's not really that much of a big thing. Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's like a lot of, you know, possibilities and opportunities and, you know, yeah, basically. And all of these societies have their own events and, you know, once every while, and you can just, you know, show up and, you know, meet new people. And that's like a great way to socialize, you know, within the university community with your peers.
Yeah.
I think everyone I've met has been either through, well, mostly through society or like some people in class. But yeah, societies have been my main way of socializing at school.
I think it's just an avenue to relax, and also everyone's just kind of trying to find their footing. So it's like it's a really great way to, you know, like when you're new to a place, just finding something that you're comfortable with, like your interests, that like, you know, there's sports, there's like activities, there's intramurals as well. I'm not so sure with COVID how that's gonna pan out, but I think most activities are being moved online, and there might be a cultural fair coming up if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so the best way to get connected and, you know, find volunteer opportunities as well. I'm gonna link some like English resources, like English resources from Dal, even the Writing Center, if you need help with essays or, you know, just learning how to cite projects or learning about academic integrity. There are also language schools available in the province, I think. So yeah. And I think we have a question in the chat box, so we can answer that. When you applied to Dal, did you struggle with your IELTS or TOEFL tests? Does anyone have experience on that?
I took the IELTS test before coming, like I had to take it. And I mean, it really depends on like, you know, the level of English proficiency that you're at. Like me for myself, like I took English classes back in Iran for like 2 or 3 years. So IELTS for me was not that much of a struggle. Like I didn't have to study much for it to, you know, be able to like, you know, pass and get like the passing grade. But yeah, if there's like, you know, if you feel that like, if you're good enough to just, you know, when like, you know, talking and, you know, because there's the components of it, there's a speaking component, there's a writing component, there's listening components, listening comprehension, basically just, you know, when someone talks and they could be basically being able to, you know, grasp the message. And yeah, I mean, pretty much like you could go to, you know, the IELTS modules and like, you know, their books and, you know, see if they're like, just look at the questions, just like you look at the questions formatting and, you know, the essays, like I think you have to write a 500-word essay or like 1,000-word essay for like the writing components. And then there's a speaking component when there's one-to-one. Yeah, I'd suggest if you're like, you know, familiar with the IELTS, because the IELTS pretty much, I mean, even if you're taking it, I mean, some countries, like I remember back when I was in Iran, they didn't really, it was a turmoil back then with like, you know, Iran and like, you know, the North America, you know, politically. So for a while, they didn't really accept the IELTS exam that you took in Iran. You had to go to Dubai back then, but it became better. But, you know, depending on where you are, you can, you know, it's pretty much the same exam, like, you know, everywhere you take it, you know, it's like, you know, very like standardized test that, you know, no matter where you take it, it's the same. So I'd suggest if you just look at the questions, look at the examples, the different modules, and see how comfortable you are with them. Like, you know, I think there might be some mock tests even, or like, you know, consultations that, you know, basically gives you an idea whether, you know, you're good, you know, you're, you know, your English proficiency level is good enough that you can just, you know, go in and, you know, take the test and, you know, come out with a passing grade, or no, you need more practice, for example, in the writing component. You need more like, you know, practice in the listening part, or whatever it is that, you know, you need more practice on. So yeah, basically, I'd suggest because yeah, it is different for like, people like, different people based on, their English experiences and, how much English they've known. Uh, it's, yeah, for some people it's, easy. It's not really that hard, it's like, like, it's either easy or like doable, in my opinion. Like, if you practice it, it's not like this, big giant, last level monster, final boss or something that you have to like, overcome. It's basically you're either comfortable doing it without much practice or with a little bit of practice and just, going through it, the stuff, you can be able to, get a passing grade, which I think is 6.5 in general. I'm not sure, but if you go to the Dalhousie's, like, IELTS requirements, I can just look it up.
6.5
6.5 is it? Yeah, 6.5.
or 6. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 for colleges and 6.5 for universities. Yeah, it's a very reachable thing, But yeah, then again, depends, If you feel like, if you're looking at the modules, if you feel like, you need more practice, yeah, just you can take the practices and, just try to, strengthen yourself in those areas. And yeah, you'll be fine. It's not really that much of a hassle getting it. And and again, I'm not sure where you're from again. From Mexico, yeah, you could take it even in Mexico if you are there, and it's pretty much the same thing. You don't really have to come all the way here and take it.
And also, if you're still struggling in your classes with English, you can also get accommodations. So what accommodations does is basically it helps you, it informs the professor or somebody in the department that you are struggling, and then they find some way to help you. Either they get somebody to help you translate things, maybe a volunteer or somebody else from the department, or they can help you with writing notes and basically whatever you need to actually be able to understand the material better. And definitely you can easily get that too if you're struggling. You just ask the professor.
And let's say
And that also,
yeah, sorry.
oh, you can go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, just real quick. If worse comes to worse and you end up not getting the required like IELTS mark, there is this like ESL program, if I'm wrong, yeah, that you can, it's basically like a 4 to 6 months, is it? Or maybe like 2 terms or 1 term, where they basically like, teach you like, all the like, academic requirements, with regards to English and how much of a English proficiency level that you have to be. So even if you like, don't get the required IELTS grade, there's always like the ESL option. It takes longer, yeah, it's like a term or 2 where you have to like, just basically go through English and, techniques and essay writing and how to like, academic writing and all that stuff. But yeah, like it's like, even if you don't get the required IELTS mark, it's not the end of the world. You can take the ESL and you still be able to, after like a couple of terms, you be, a full-on student. Sorry, back to you, Mary.
Yeah. And the translation thing is not only limited to academic support. I do know that the student health and wellness has like a lot of translator services. So if you do have difficulty communicating in English when you're coming here and you need to go see a physician at the student health and wellness center, they do have translators that you can just call and like they'll be the one communicating between you and the physician. So yeah.
Are there any other questions that you'd like to ask us? Feel free to put them in the chat box. Yeah.
And
So I
yeah,
think-
with regards to like, there's one thing like one of the struggles like back when it's basically like, it's not much of a just learning the English is basically like, finding your own comfort ground on how you communicate and how well you can, basically just how are you comfortable and people understand it. So, when you first come here, don't get really discouraged on, when you make mistakes, or like, when at certain times people don't understand you, and like, causes some, awkward, uncomfortable moments. Like these moments pass, it's just basically you learn from it and as you go on. And like, and basically like, you talk English basically however you're comfortable and however you like it. For example, I had this, false preconceived notion that, if I come to Canada and I'm like, talking with a Persian accent and, not talking with like a North American accent, I'm going to be ostracized. And people was like, yeah, he's speaking broken English or whatnot. So like, when I was studying, I was just like watched a lot of movies trying to emulate the North American accent basically, so that I, don't get ostracized when I come here, which was like, it was like a whole different situation. Like I was like totally wrong. Basically, like it's even better if you have an accent. Like, I've like talked to a lot of the native speakers of English here. It's like they pay more attention, because it's like it's a more unique way of speaking. So people pay more attention to you. It's like, it's good to be different, and I didn't know that. So I can talk in a Persian accent, it is no problem for me, brother, but it's like, I got used to it over the years of like, it's not good, but, I was trying to, emulate the North American accent. I thought it was necessary. Yeah, I was under the impression that it's necessary. If you want people to understand you, you have to, speak a certain way, but it's not the case at all. It's basically, if, however you like speaking, people will understand. And if they don't, like, they would, it's gives people a wider world view, basically, with you, creating your own accent, so it's not really like, that much of a hassle, like pretty much. Yeah, that's what I, got into my mind, like thought of sharing.
Yeah, I think I kind of face the same issue because even though I grew up speaking English, the pace at which people talk here is very different. They do like take the time to kind of listen to you and just try and get their message across, and more about the emotions than actually just getting, like, oh, you need to do this. They ask like, how are you doing? Is this possible if you get this done by this time or this date? So um, I also did feel the pressure to kind of conform and have an accent so that people understand me. But if you it's all about, it's just a level of communication. It's as long as the other person understands you and you understand them. I think that's the most important part about communicating as compared to how you present yourself. As international students, you already have a lot of pressure, just trying to fit in and trying to find your way in this new country. And I think, yeah, communication is a big issue, but it shouldn't be the main issue that you struggle with. It comes with time and practice. And I think we all just find our groove when we do. And it comes with a lot of environmental like influence as well. Like the more you talk to people, the more you realize how conversations flow. You don't get too stressed out when someone asks you how you're doing and you're like, oh, how much do I share? How much do they know? And yeah. So are there any more questions? I'd just like to point out that as an international student, I think the Writing Center is a pretty good resource that I never knew that, universities offer this kind of avenue. For me, I didn't know what writing like a formal essay or report was like, and citations. So going there and having someone review my essays and, pointing out like little grammar mistakes that I didn't realize I make, even though my first language is English, it's a good resource that you should check out. And, yeah, what are your experiences with them?
Yeah, basically the writing center, like whenever you want to, write an essay, and, sometimes it's like, really mind-boggling. It's like really difficult because, you haven't written an academic essay, in this like, new, in an English-speaking school. So the writing center is like really helpful. Like, they have an office at the Killam Library. When you go up to the campus, yeah, Killam Library is like the main library, and they're on the first floor. They have like the office for a writing center. They can even, just drop by or make an appointment if you want to, have a good sorry, that the green screen that you just put just really distracted. What was that? Yeah, the bug in Paris or like a bridge or something? It
I
was
think it
cool.
was a bridge.
It was a bridge. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I thought you had to have a green screen for that to work. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
That's
clicked
it.
it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, some like added extras for Zoom, I guess. So yeah, sorry. Back to yeah. So yeah, writing center basically. So if you have like any problems with writing essays or any like academic papers, like it's your first experience writing in a paper, and then when you come here you're gonna be writing papers. There's a lot of it, like I don't think there is a major where you'll be exempt from writing essays or papers or research papers. Like it's an academic requirement. Academic writing, it's in every single major. So whenever you feel like struggling with it and you need a second opinion, or like you have no idea and you really need like a whole like foundational help on how to approach writing an essay, the Dalhousie's Writing Center is your go-to. You just basically go in or like book an appointment, and one of their executives like sit down with you. You like answer your questions, go through your essay. I mean no matter how like, I mean, I don't know, when I went to them it was like a 2-page essay that I had to write, 3-page essay, and they just basically like tackled every part, and we just went through it, reading through it, whether it's just like a cover letter for your resume or like a homework that you have, anything basically with regards to writing, they'll be able to help you.
And you don't have to finish the essay and then go to them. You could go to them with like your essay topic and be like,
Yeah.
hey, I kind of have this idea. How should I start? Like, where do I start? Do I start with the introduction, or do I just like think about the body first, and things like that. It's like kind of like a good place to bounce off ideas, and they teach you about like how to cite things, there are different citation methods, which kind of freaked me out at first. There's like APA, MLA, and like, the scientific ones, and you're like, like all these requirements, but they'll point you towards like the right website or, citation places, and yeah.
Because Dalhousie has a very strict no plagiarism policy, and you have to know how to make proper citations, because if you don't, some classes are more strict than others, and they might penalize you for that, for not having a correct citation or the right kinds of citations within your paragraph or essay. So be very, 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 very careful about that, because it's a headache to deal with if something like accidental happens with plagiarism, even if either you or somebody like didn't intend it, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think of something.
I mean, yeah, take this like plagiarism case really seriously, because academic integrity is something that they really like emphasize on. And when you come in, you have to like complete some academic integrity modules, which is basically like this online questionnaire / exam, which goes through different situations of what scenarios might lead to plagiarism. For example, yeah, like your friend is like, hey, it's like this assignment is due like tonight, and I don't know how to write it, and you're just like, okay, I just did it, here it is, you can copy it from it, and then that way, boom, you get a plagiarism case. You got to have to defend yourself behind the court of your peers, and like and then various like ramifications that comes with that, like whether it's like you get a 0 on that assignment, or even like worse, like cases like where there are some cases that you basically like failed the whole course because of like a big final project that you plagiarized. So yeah, it's like really important that whenever like you're writing your essay, make sure it's like your ideas, it's original. Even if you like, you have to use like different other sources of literature, of course. We always working to building up on work of others, but whenever you do so, make sure that you cite it properly. And they also go through that module, like how to cite things properly as well, so that you don't get in trouble. You always credit the people that you use their work on your assignment or your essay or your research paper. And yeah, there are really serious ramifications if you do not, follow the guidelines. You have to, attend some court meetings, and then, all the parties, like, the person that, that cheated off you or you cheated off them has to come in and defend themselves, and then, basically explain the situation. And depending on the judge there, they might give you like, different, they might penalize you in different ways. And yeah, basically, yeah, one time I gave my paper to my cousin, and he gave it to another person, and she, like, copied the entire method section of my paper. And because I wasn't involved directly in it, they didn't subtract any marks from me, but they subtracted marks from my cousin, and they gave the person who cheated off my paper that my cousin gave to her got a 0 on that assignment, like, completely. And then, and I mean, thank God I didn't get any marks deducted from me because of that, but I had to redo the academic integrity module again. I have to attend 2 seminars on how to cite properly, and then one-on-one session on how to paraphrase stuff. So yeah, like, it took me, and they put your grade on hold if you have any plagiarism related cases, no matter if you were guilty or whatever. They put your grade in that specific subject that you were accused of plagiarism act. They would put that grade on hold until you do all the steps, and basically, like, your penalization steps. And yeah, my grade was, like, on hold for like 6 months. So yeah, when I went to, like, see my grades for that specific course, it said it's incomplete or on hold due to some academic integrity issues. So yeah, really be mindful of that. And yeah, it's like, basically, it's like, for them, it's better that if you're, like, really struggling, it's better that you get a bad grade than using someone else's work, because that way, like, the outcome of that is way worse than getting a bad grade or, like, failing, because it's like, on your transcript, like, based on the severity of the situation, it might remain on your transcript. I know if you, like, have the first one, they may let it slide, like, they won't let it be on your transcript. But, like, if it repeats, like, if you have a second plagiarism case, it would be on your, like, transcript, like, it would just be a blemish on your transcript, basically. So yeah, be mindful of that for sure. And they will go through all of that in the academic integrity module as you guys come in. So yeah, you would have a lot more information with regards to that.
Yeah, and I think as international students, we always tend to try and help others, trying to fit in. And maybe, if you're like a local friend, or even an international friend is struggling, you just want to be that helping hand, because everyone's facing a difficult time. But you do have to know your boundaries, and where you shouldn't be lending, like, a full report to a friend, even though you have good intentions, because you're in control of what you give others and not really in control of what they do with that paper. So you could help them by saying, hey, I'll look over your essay. I could give you tips on, what the structure should be like, but definitely don't give your whole report, or even, like, the workings you did for, like, a question if you're in engineering, or if for computer science it's coding. It's really difficult to, it's difficult to draw your boundaries, because you do want everyone to succeed, but you have to keep your best interest at heart, because it's not great receiving that email, seeing with all, like, the Dalhousie official things being like, attention, you have an academic allegation, and you have to go through a whole process, and it's definitely stress you do not want to feel. And yeah, I had one, especially during this COVID situation, and we couldn't do, like, an in-person meeting. So I'm just waiting every day for, like, the email to arrive, and seeing, like, is progress being made, like, I can't contact people directly and ask for their opinion on stuff like that. So it's really not the best situation you want to be in. And even if they are, like, they're lenient with their first one, the warning is in your system. And so if a second, like, allegation appears, it definitely goes to, like, the Senate or something like that. So you really don't want that to happen, especially at university. So, yeah.
So if you are an international student who is incoming, make sure to ask for help when you need it. so that you don't resort to tactics where you can put yourself in issues essentially.
And I think it's healthy, if you have like a timetable so you don't rush assignments at the last minute and resort to these like bad habits of like, copying from people. And even if you're struggling with, just life in general, like homesickness, you're struggling with your assignments, do email your professors or your TAs and ask them if you could have an extension. Don't make use of it, but just, if you do need that help or the extra time to cope with your studies, they will understand and ask for an extension, and hopefully there aren't that many penalties. But also I think the penalty of maybe like 5 or 10% is better than having the whole process of an allegation. So that's something to keep in mind. Does anyone have anything else to add with regards to plagiarism? We have a question in the chat box. How do you feel now compared to the first time you arrived in Canada? This is an interesting one. You guys want to take it?
I mean, it was very overwhelming at first, a whole new environment and, all the situations that we went through, all the like, first the language barrier, then the communicating, and then, getting used to the weather, and then, how is everything, going to be like. But, it's like compared to now, as you like, live here, you get used to it, and, it feels, for me personally, it just, Halifax, I feel home at Halifax, basically. Like, it was, overwhelming at first, but, once you, come here and, get used to all the, like, I don't know, the way the city is, and, you establish a friend group, and, you just get, like, established here. It's just like, it's very good. Like, it's a very good city, like, in my opinion. It's not too big that you get lost in it, not too small that you get bored. And it's definitely feel like, at ease and, comfortable, compared to when we first arrived, when I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do right now? What am I going to approach this situation? What should I do right now? It's like, it's a little bit of a, your mind is boggled, when you arrive to a whole new space, same with everyone. But as you compared to now, like, compared to 4 years ago, it's basically like, I feel at home. It's really good.
Yeah, you
You
really
will feel
quickly
over.
adapt.
Oh, go ahead, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Is there a lag in the chat? Is that why? Sorry.
No, I just like speaking whenever you speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are in sync.
Right.
So I found it personally, it's not too difficult to adapt to like how to act here in Canada. Like I found it quite easy to know like what's wrong to do, what's right to do, and like how to act when you're around people or in public. And I find it quite too bad compared to when I first came. Know like how to like for example how to address people like, who are older than you, or like how to speak to certain people of like in like a higher position, or even like how to really communicate with other people in a way which is kind of like not too confusing and respectful at the same time. I find that was kind of hard, and also like keeping like my voice down. I know I'm quite a loud person personally, and like not a lot of people raise their voice here. And I found that hard personally for me, but I adapted and it's good.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it will be challenging at first. It'll be overwhelming, but you will adapt and you will overcome. One piece of advice I would give is to get involved, because that sort of takes your mind off of, your homesickness. So find good friends, find good activities to do outside of school, volunteer if you can, things like that.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely a big shock because for like just just people in general, I grew up with a lot of Asians and like Chinese specifically. So coming to a country where no one looks like me, it was kind of like a big shock. I don't know if anyone else experienced that, but it's I kind of definitely felt like an outsider from the beginning. But gradually you kind of get used to like seeing people that I just got used to it, and it does take time. Small talk was one of them, but also finally I lived in in residence on campus, and there are people who are from different countries as well, like international students or even just different parts of Canada, and you just start integrating yourself in, and you get to know what people are like, and culturally what's acceptable, and it just grows on you, or you just grow into the system, and you find your way, and it's definitely something that everyone experiences personally. It's not something you can compare with other international students because everyone's background is really different, and how you find your way into Canada in general. It's a personal journey. So, but there's also the aspect where you do connect with international students because everyone's far from home, and you do feel that homesickness or that yearning for like home cooked food, or just that comfort of like parents and stuff like that. So I think it's 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 not a long journey, but it's definitely like a roller coaster where you feel like, oh wow, I made it to Canada, but then like, oh, I miss home, and you miss your friends, and it
Hmm.
it takes time. Yeah.
Yeah, good thing about Dalhousie is like, we have the highest population of international students here. So even if you feel homesick, it would not affect you as bad because there's like, definitely wherever you're from, there are like, people from the same country or like, even the same city as you are. There's like
Mhm.
definitely like, societies, like, from the people that, basically like your collective people that where you're from. So yeah, you're definitely gonna, meet with people and find friends who are in the same situation and position as you, and at least experiencing this homesickness, as a group, makes the effect a little bit, dumbs it down a little bit, so you don't feel
Yeah.
as bad. But yeah, it's like something that you just have to power through, even if it's it's really hard because nothing's going to be the same as the home, obviously, but yeah, it will be. We'll get over it.
And if you're struggling, the mental health center is always open to students.
Yes.
So make sure you make use of that resource.
Let me find that link.
Mhm.
And I think we can link into like the next question about, did you get homesick when you first arrived? We'll have a session, I think, in 2 weeks' time about homesickness. So stay tuned for that. And next week will be about food, and then after that, it'll be about homesickness. So yeah. But if you guys want to talk about homesickness, what do you guys feel?
I thought we
You
were
already, yeah.
addressing homesickness this whole time. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, sorry, Lookman, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, food is definitely number one on my list. That's the first thing I really miss. But also the social support system. Friends that you've had since childhood, and your parents, your siblings, things like that. But it really subsides over time, and you get acclimated, and you form new relationships and new friendships. So it will be hard at first, but you will be okay.
Uh, the thing I missed most was my cousins, definitely. And I find it like with just the progression of technology, it got like easier and easier and easier to contact them every day and stay connected. So I'd suggest get a good electronic device so you can contact them every day. It'll definitely help you feel way less homesick.
Mhm.
I feel like what helped me when I was homesick was that I would talk to like other international, well, not just international students, but like just other friends I had in residence in general. And like we would just talk about what our home was like. And I don't know, it just really helped me. And I think it also helped my friends to like, by sharing what your home country or your hometown is like, it kind of, I don't know, it comforts you and like it reminds you about the little things that you liked about like where you came from. And you're able to like bond over that. So yeah, I think that kind of helped. Yeah, a lot of like late nights about talking about like your mother's like home cooked food and like the place you like to hang out when you were younger. Like even though like you don't really know or you'll never really get to see, or maybe you will, but like you'll never really get to see like what it is for the other person like back home. It's kind of good to bond over those things that like mean so much to you and are special to you, I think. So that I think that helped for me a lot. Yeah.
I always have these like deja vu moments where sometimes I just want to find like a good study spot, but the memory in my mind is like my high school back home, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely go to that bench or like that park, and then I kind of
Yeah.
like get up and be like, I don't have like the flight to go home, and it's definitely yeah. So I mean, there are things. For me it's food, and also kind of like the roads are kind of different, like the trees are, I grew up with very tropical trees, so seeing like like in the fall especially, like the orange leaves, and it does feel like a bit foreign, but I'm kind of like settling into that. But yeah.
What about the snow? It must be very new to you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never knew it could snow like consecutively for like and build up till what,
Hmm.
like knee high or even higher. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really different. Yeah, does anyone else have any other questions? If not, stay tuned for next week. We'll be talking about food. Um, hey, thanks. Glad it was helpful. We'll be talking about food, and because of cultural societies, I'm sure everyone has good restaurants to recommend, and good like supermarkets or like tips and tricks on how to cook home cooked food. Yeah, so thanks for joining. Do we want to take a like a Wi-Fi and a screenshot again? And if everyone doesn't mind, you can turn on your video and we can take a picture. Oh no, okay.
Or someone minds.
Someone minds. Hi, welcome. Hi,
Right.
Sadra.
Wait a minute.
Do your thing.
Wait. Uh-huh. Okay, on 3, 2, 1, say cheese.
Cheese.
Got it.
Nice.
Okay.
So thank you for
Cool.
coming. Hope you enjoyed the session, and stay tuned for more, and have a great day or great night. Yeah.
Have a good one,
Thank
guys.
you.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Why is the turnout so bad?
Mhm.